Okay, all right. I'm ready for the lesson. Oh, now it's too quiet. Okay, I'm gonna have to turn it up.
Do you want to start with just a warm up? Because I was giving
Yeah,
this position to my chat, and this should really
sounds
just be a 1 minute exercise.
fun. Okay, all right. I hope I can solve it in 1 minute.
So
Uh, turn this.
I think what I'll do, because this position, it's not yet a tactical moment, but
Okay,
the first question is, what would you play here? Like if you had even treat this as a blitz game, you have like 15 to 20 seconds to make a move. What would
yeah.
be the natural move that you play here?
I would play 95 because normally if they take, we want to attack on h7, and I haven't castled yet, so taking here for black shouldn't be good.
Awesome. Okay, so this is kind of the first thing to understand is you don't want to castle because there's potential for the H file to open if black trades on G3.
Yeah.
So 95, good move. And now let's imagine knight takes G3.
Okay.
How would you continue?
H takes.
Okay, so here's where I want to pause you
Okay.
and go back a move. Because in Blitz, you maybe even just pre-move HG3. But
Yeah.
in a longer game, you want to recognize that H takes G3, it's not a forcing move. You have another candidate move you should really consider
Oh.
here.
Oh, yes, yes. Taking on c6.
That's another candidate move. What
Oh,
else?
and bishop takes.
Mm-hmm.
Which, oh, I think, wow, this is a nice one. It's probably bishop takes, right? Because if the king takes, pawn takes, king's run, and queen h5.
Yep, it's winning on the spot. So
Wow.
this is, I think, a very instructive moment where the move a lot of players play is just automatic recapture. But there's cases, especially with the attack on H7, you can just mix up the
Yeah.
move order
Here, we
and it's
can show it
completely
for the
winning.
chat. There you go. Yeah, this line is awesome. I guess the main, here, we can put it for chat. Just
Yeah,
to
so
follow.
takes, king has to move back. And
And
I
running mate.
it's pretty much forced mate. Black could stop it with bishop h4 and then sack the queen, but
Yeah.
I figured I'd show this to you because it's such a common tactical motif that you
Yeah,
can
no,
see it
this
a
is
lot of times in
great.
London.
A lot
Yeah.
of times, like, and I've played this line for years and years, and I don't even think of starting with a more forcing move. But yeah,
Mm.
I guess the main time that I get in these type of positions where you see when I change the moves, right?
Yep. Yeah, we're all synced up.
I guess mainly when my bishop's on g3, their bishop's always on d6, and instead they're trading with their bishop, which is very
Sure.
annoying because then once I take here, like I don't really know whether to castle, and their knight on f6 is always defending. So in this position, I really like the trade on with the bishop, but so I don't like it as much when they're taking my bishop with their dark squared bishop.
Gotcha. And that's just another line to deal with. Actually, when they play bishop d6 and there's a tension between the bishops, that's probably one of the most common lines in the London, where
Yeah.
then you kind of have to know some theory, and that will be when like Magnus Carlsen's preparation comes in
Yeah.
handy because you'll be prepared further into the middle game.
And I have
Yeah,
one question for those type of positions, but
sure.
I'll let you. Uh,
But yeah, if there's specific line or game that you want to jump into,
yeah. Oh,
I guess if you remember the moves, we could just play
yeah.
into the line.
It should be just, yeah, knight f3
Hmm.
here, and then bishop d6 here, and instead of c5, let's say they push like b6.
Hmm.
So, because here we don't do the bishop b5 line anymore, which I learned is the best. And I typically go for 95 stuff here. But I wanted to ask if you have, so the line I normally play is like, I kind of just play to push e4, maybe a queen e2, which
Sure.
is the most common idea in these positions. But I was curious if you played anything different.
Yeah. B6.
Oh,
It's one of these lines that you have to deal with these days, where Black will kind of more slow play, like to understand Black's plan. Black wants to play bishop b7, knight d7, usually queen e7 to support the bishop, and then later c5, knight e4. So there's a few ways to deal with this. One way is just to kind of do your own thing and do exactly what you said, is go for your usual setup,
yeah.
and sometimes you can still go for knight e5 and then get like a stonewall setup where you put your pawn on
Yeah.
f4, the bishop can
Typical.
find life on h4, and you still have a lot of attacking potential on the king side.
Is that the line that you normally play in these positions?
Yeah, so that's one of the lines I probably play most often.
Okay.
If I know my opponent goes for like this early b6, bishop b7, and avoids like the main line with early c5, knight c6,
Yeah.
what I've been looking into recently is actually not playing bishop g3, but rather starting with knight e5.
Oh, this is what Magnus showed me. This is what
Oh,
Magnus.
oh, that's so cool.
He
I've
said this
been,
is better than bishop g3.
yeah, because you
Well,
kind of save a tempo.
yes, exactly, exactly.
And this is
And then I
very
kind of
cutting edge
thought
theory.
about it. Yeah, I'll follow your lead here because I didn't. This is the one that I think we lost the move order for.
Gotcha. Okay, so I have the file saved. I'll try and remember it. This is good review for me. So if we just play
I
natural
try
moves
to
for
remember
black,
too.
yeah.
Yes.
So let's imagine black's natural setup will be castling c5, queen c7, knight c6. Then
Yeah.
very often, like black will go for knight d7 to challenge
Yeah.
e5. So
Exactly.
our setup should be still pretty normal. Like knight d2 usually goes to f3 to support e5. Our bishop comes here, pawn here, and very often we still castle. So let's just play out some natural moves.
Yeah. Exactly.
Castling, knight d2, c5, c3, queen c7, bishop d3. Some of these moves are interchangeable, but you can get to this position.
I wonder.
And yeah,
Yeah, I did see this position with Magnus. I don't think the h4 line came from one of these positions, but there was some interesting moves he showed me that weren't the normal stuff that I play. But I just can't remember what they were.
so it's important with this line. It's very important to like remember it well because a small difference in the position, like if the knight's not here and the pawn is here, things could it could change the tactics of what you're supposed to do in the middle game.
Yeah.
I could show you one trap here,
Yeah.
which is actually one of the most natural moves for black. Is a big mistake. It's a move I kind of showed earlier. Is one of the main ideas is to play knight
Oh,
d7.
I think he did show me this too.
Oh, do you remember what to do as white?
Um. Okay. I have to think about it. Bang, bang, bang. Hmm. Oh. Can we sack here? And the same idea?
So you're considering Greek gift.
Yeah,
It's good. That's one of the first things that come to mind because it's the most forcing variation.
but
The
yeah.
problem when you want to go for Greek gift, the first question you have to ask yourself is after Queen h5 in this variation, can Black defend h7? And Black can just bring the
Oh
knight
yeah, there's
back.
just knight f6. Oh,
So if we just
gotcha.
play this out for chat,
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
White's almost winning here, but knight f6, and there's no strong attack.
yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
So
Let's see
you
what
have to
else.
be a bit more controlled rather than just recklessly sack pieces.
Bang. Yeah, exactly. I tend to do that a lot in my games.
Which can be
Um,
fun, but
yeah, it doesn't always work, especially in blitz. Bang. I feel like I know there's some positions where we can win this pawn, but I don't think that's
I like the
big.
fact you're looking at the forcing moves. Like, of course, the captures knight takes c6 or takes
Mm-hmm.
c5.
Yeah.
There's another candidate move. I know Levy says this all the time. Like, look for checks, captures, but what's the third
Yeah,
type
that's
of
what my
move?
old coach. Are we talking about still types of forcing moves?
Yes, checks,
Then it's
captures, and
attack.
yeah. So the move here
Oh
is just a simple attack.
no, a simple attack.
And this is a target. I will say h7 is your
Oh,
focal point.
knight g5.
hmm And
Okay.
the reason why this is so powerful is because, first of all, most of Black's pieces are on the queen side. So mathematically, you just have more attackers on the king side than Black has defenders.
Okay.
And then if we start looking at the variations, we'll realize that a lot of the defensive moves that look normal just completely fail for Black. If we look at h6, maybe the most natural move,
Mm-hmm.
White to move, how can you continue to be forcing and not retreat, but keep moving forward?
Queen h5.
Queen h5 actually looks playable.
Mm,
There's
what
something
other?
even more forcing though. Like, what's the most forcing move in the position?
Like, oh yeah. Oh, wait. No, I don't think this. Oh, it does, because then we take here and they don't win our bishop because we win this.
Yeah, you have to basically see until the end of the line that d6 is hanging, and it's just a very nice sequence. You
Oh, okay.
fork, and you pick up, like you've won the exchange and a pawn, and black is just falling apart.
I'm glad we're reviewing this.
Yeah, I'll admit, I first discovered this line maybe about a year ago. I actually learned it through watching Komsky's streams.
Okay.
Because he made the comment that he's just playing all his like main preparation online because there's no over the board tournaments to play.
Yeah,
So I
good stuff. You gotta get it now while it's out there.
exactly. So I downloaded all his games and then scouted out his repertoire, and he's playing this
That's
position a lot.
awesome. Okay, but
Yeah,
after knight g5, oh, I guess if they take, I was thinking if they take our knight here.
they have no time because you're threatening bishop h7, queen h5.
Right. Oh, okay. So here, just to play it out for the chat and partially for
Sure.
myself.
So let's say takes.
Here, you take check, then you run, and instead of taking back, we threaten mate right away.
Exactly. And there's no way now for black to really
Rings the bell
save
now.
the king. Like g6 you take.
Okay, I remember this now. This is
Good.
great.
Yeah, it's good to review like a few times and not only commit it to memory, but really understand what's going on. So if you forget, you can just kind of figure it out. Like hopefully you'll understand the tactical sequences. Now, if we look at g6,
Oh, okay.
like this variation, there's a lot of branches like black can choose from.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, g6 clearly seems like a slightly weaker move because of the dark square. Well, I guess the other ones were losing, but let's see, what could we do? Bang, 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 bang. I don't know if we have any tactics here. Well, our knight is still under attack, so we have to do something about that.
Be careful not to think too defensively. Obviously, yeah, your knight is attacked, but like the first consideration should be like how can you tear apart the king side because black is a bit misplaced.
I was thinking initially like h4, h5, but then I was like, well, our knight
might be a little bit too slow.
Yeah. We can also always sack here, queen check. I looked at that, but I don't think it led to anything after this.
I'll tell you, if this was a slower game, you wanna spend a lot of time on this line, queen h5.
Oh yeah, yes. Because then you could take knight here.
Yep.
Starting pawn takes, you have mate, but instead they could just take your bishop. So here, oh, they can't take your bishop because I mean, it looks like it kind of works.
It's completely crushing. Takes.
Oh, okay.
Takes. Check. Like sometimes from a distance, it might be hard to evaluate, but let's say king g8. Regardless of where the king moves, you're gonna sack on g6.
Exactly.
That's not really a sack because if black takes, you mate next move.
Yeah. Okay.
I think there's like one tricky line here if king g7, but I mean black is falling apart like queen h6 and you're still sacking on g6 and then you're getting mate here, so white's having all the fun.
We have mate, so there's nothing they can do.
Yep.
Okay.
And then there's one, so we looked at the branches h6, g6, black takes on e5. The best move here is knight f6 back. So black essentially lost two tempi moving back and forth. And the next move for white, it's not really a tactical shot, but it's just it just adds more pressure to the position and makes it so black is going to end up losing something. For this one, I think I'll show you, but it's just a matter of trying to remove the knight on f6. Okay. So the way to remember this, you're attacking the pawn 2 times. Rather than adding a third attacker, you just want to remove one of the key defenders. So maybe I'll have you try and find it. How can you attack the knight with a single piece? Yep. Knight g4. And yeah, black is overwhelmed here because you're threatening to take with check and then take, and then your queen's going to come in. And black is very short on defense.
Here, so they can't do anything. And if they push, then their pawn structure is just
Yep.
hideous after we take here.
Like the best move for black is to play knight e4 and give back a pawn, like a center pawn for free. I guess the fun line to analyze is takes and then
Oh,
takes, and then black has to take, and then queen h5, and
oh
it's
wow.
overwhelming.
Okay, that one's tricky. What if there was another? I mean, wouldn't they? So you said this is the best move, but I mean, won't they be winning? Oops,
If we
sorry.
go back one more, yeah.
Yeah, won't they be winning back our pawn on f4 here? I guess you.
Oh yeah, so it's a matter of move order, but imagine we take with knight.
Oh, you take first.
Then if pawn takes, yeah, kind of in between
Okay.
Zwischen Zug. And then I guess it's important that if black plays f5. Actually, what's the line here? We might have to take on c5.
If they take here, we could take the knight.
Yeah,
But
it gets
then,
murky because g2 hangs in the end.
yeah.
Oh, we just take on d6 first. And then if knight takes on d6, we win h7. And then if
Sorry.
queen takes, then we take with bishop.
Wait, but even if they take our.
And we're going to hit the queen and
Oh
pawn.
yeah. Oh, okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
So these lines get murky, but I mean, this is something if you wanted to pursue, you kind of have a choice between this move order, where you keep the bishop on f4, or other variations where you just move it back and kind of play your main setup.
Yeah, no, I definitely want to look at these lines where we don't play bishop g3 anymore. They're very interesting.
Yeah. I mean, they're very interesting. They're very venomous, and they're still not so well known even at the high level. So it takes more work to like fully understand them and commit them to memory, but it can
I
pay off
definitely,
if you put in the
yeah,
time to study
I
them.
definitely want to try it.
Mhm.
And bishop, that is also for the bishop b. Wait, oh, I just realized though the bishop b5 line though is with bishop g3.
So there's
Or no?
different move orders, but yeah. So if we look at the bishop e5 line, because we actually haven't shown it on board yet, but
Yeah,
it does involve bishop g3. Again, there's different move orders in London, so you could get it from a few different move orders. But let's say black plays c5, c3, knight c6, knight d2. This is where you kind of do the traditional setup, castling. I think the main move you used to play a lot is bishop d3, but bishop e5 is the Magnus
much
move, and
better. Yes, exactly.
it's my move of choice too, because I think there's more traps after bishop e5 compared to the main bishop d3 line.
Yes. And then here the main thing why I said this is so good, because in this position we go for this e4 plan, and typically, and it's like black is a move behind, because normally when they play this setup they already have their bishop on b7 and they push e4, so that's why that tempo is so important here.
So did Magnus show you like the whole variation stemming from this?
I actually reviewed this in the database that you gave me.
Okay. I included the Magnus. There's a famous
Yeah.
Magnus Bosiocic game.
Yes, with the takes on c5 we can show it right here. Or no, am I moved behind? No.
This is all good. So just to understand, we play e4. Starting with e4, every single move from white will be some sort of attack or recapture. So e4 threatens e5, recapture, hit the rook. And it's a very flowing variation. So rook b8. Now the rooks align with the bishop, so here's where we take.
Yep.
And now we attack the bishop actually 3 times. Black can't take back on c5. Black is forced to take on g3. And this is actually where I found an improvement on the Magnus Carlsen game. Because what he played was h takes g3.
Yeah.
And we'll just show what happened in his game, because it was still really nice.
Yeah.
He took on g3. Bosiocic played f5. And remember, every move you want to be attacking, or basically you want to keep initiative, so you don't retreat here. You play the simple queen trade.
C6.
And now what's the winning move?
Is this it? No.
Yep. Oh,
okay.
You just have to be more confident, but this is absolutely crushing.
Double check it. Okay. But I was curious: does the takes on h7 line not work after bishop takes c with the same idea?
So the queens could be traded. Also, your knight's on f3. So
Because I was thinking,
you want to take
yeah,
here.
with my check with the.
Oh, we can look at that. I don't think it does. It's
I
good
guess
that
it's
you're considering it though.
Greek gift again. Yeah, I mean, I don't think Magnus Carlsen would miss a tactic like this from his game, so I'm sure it doesn't work. But I'm curious why.
So if we just play out on the board, there is a nice move here. How can black defend h7 square?
Oh, and I realized they could also
Oh,
just
actually,
sack.
they can take on f2 first. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
they could
probably best.
just us. Okay, so
And
that's
then,
probably what will work.
but there's queen d3, like worst case scenario, and the queen will defend.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Okay,
there's probably some checks as well.
okay, that makes sense.
So anyway, the improvement that I found is not to take the bishop first, rather to take the queen first. It could
Okay,
transpose, but we give black the option of maybe taking with check on f2, which is a mistake because after king takes, we again have the c6 move.
right.
And then it could transpose if black just takes back, takes. We're threatening the h pawn. We're already up a pawn because we took and black never recaptured. So we're guaranteed to, I think, be up a pawn here. And again, if f5, c6 is a really nice move.
Okay, makes sense.
It still takes some technique, like black has knight d5, but then you trade. And this pawn's you're gonna hold on to it because after this you have rook here. You'll trade rooks, knight e5, f4, and this is how
Okay,
Magnus won his game.
very nice.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, this
So
line.
that's good review.
Oh yeah, okay, this was my because this bishop b5 line is so nice, but to get into this line, that means that you play bishop g3,
Hmm.
which I at first when I was learning from Magnus, he said that this is a better move. So with this 95, you don't even walk into any of those lines anymore.
Yeah, it's really a choice of what you want to pursue.
Okay.
I think you can really go for either, and sometimes like what I'll do, I'll look up my opponent beforehand and
Oh,
see if they would be like. Of course, this is for serious games or matches, and get a sense of what they're most likely to walk into.
okay. So
Yeah,
it's kind of a preference thing whether you want to play g3 and get the idea of this one or play this with different plans.
exactly. And for you, like I guess when you're playing a lot of like blitz games or just training games on stream, maybe choose the one that you're most excited about learning, but then keep the other one in the back pocket. And that's
Yeah,
one of the nice things about London. Like you have different weapons to choose from. You don't have to play the same thing every time.
yeah, it's good to mix it up anyway and get experience in different positions.
Definitely.
I'm curious if there are any other 95 lines. Like what even is the main line for that?
So this specific move order that we looked at would be the main 95 line.
With well, without the mistake for black, without the 97.
Oh, without 97. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we just review maybe a moment here, I know the moves are saved, but let's say you complete development and you go into this. Might have to pull up my prep. I was actually helping a friend a few weeks ago, exploring a lot of these variations.
So nice. I feel like one of these positions transpose into one of the H4 lines I've been trying to remember, but I'm not
Oh
sure.
yeah. So
Queen.
there's a move here, knight e4. Oops. What did I do? Knight f3. Of course, you have to defend
Yeah,
the knight,
that's how to play
and then
knight
knight
f4.
e4 is a playable move.
Yes.
And this is where it can get complicated, and like this is still taking me time to fully understand because it's a big clump of pieces in the center.
Yeah, big clump.
Yeah, and there's so much tension, so it's easy for both sides to go wrong and maybe make a misstep. The key here is just to increase tension even further because you have everything defended, and the move I can recommend is queen c2.
Okay, makes sense. They probably would push f5.
Yeah, f5 is probably like the most natural move.
Yep, this is what I always get these setups in my games, and
Mm.
they're just so annoying because they're so symmetrical and drawish, but then I don't
Yeah,
read everything. And then like play 95, push f3, and that's pretty much all I do.
gotcha. Um, So what I can recommend here, and the nice thing about this variation after f5 is now you can start simplifying and get kind of a nice sort of positional setup because you're going to have better control over the e5 square because this is an outpost square. When black
Yeah,
moves a pawn forward, there's never going to be a pawn coming to f6 or d6 to remove your knight.
exactly. Which is why I normally try to use the advantage that we can attack their knight with our f3. That's only why I try to trade my knights.
Right. Yeah, and you have like looming f3, and here I think you can just simplify with takes on c6, and if we imagine black just recaptures, you take on d6, let's say recapture, and here like you could hop into to e5 right away. There's really no rush. Like you can castle finally, and you have what we can call a good bishop against black's kind of more depressing bishop.
Yeah,
Um, so this is a lot more positional compared to what we saw previously with the raging
yeah.
kingside attack, but um, it's very pleasant for white. And there's going to be a lot of cases where you do end up trading off your bishop for the knight, and then you'll have a good knight versus a bishop that can never remove a knight on e5 defended by your pawn.
So when is like a good time for you to trade this bishop?
Um, I guess if black plays c4, then you don't want to
Oh
move
yeah,
back. You want to take and
yeah.
otherwise, you're not in a
They
huge
let
rush
me
because
play
the knight's not
C4.
really attacking anything. Um,
Maybe they
sometimes
play
it
something
depends on the position.
here. Let's say, would you just develop your rooks or bring your knight to the center? Probably you'd bring your knight
I
first
think
if it's
95 because they're of course you want to stay flexible. Like at this point, you're not sure if you want to make the commitment for trading, but when you play 95, let's say bishop d7, 95, you still keep the option open of taking or playing f3 and then keeping your bishop on the
okay.
board.
But so in this position, would you still wait on, let's say, like after knight, and they play something like, I'll just put in a random move?
Hmm.
Oh, I guess. Well, I don't know if you could actually win a pawn here. I don't.
Mm.
No, you might be able to. This might be a bad example.
So
Um.
this is a case where even if like for some reason you could win a pawn by taking on d7,
Mhm.
knight takes d7, it's a move that will make a lot of strong players just cringe because you're trading off your best piece for black's
Okay,
worst
got it.
piece. That's probably not even winning a full
Okay.
pawn.
Okay, awesome. Good to know. Because sometimes I do go for those cheapos, take here
Hmm.
and like push b4, and it's kind of a bad pawn structure. But I'm like, yeah, I got a pawn, but yeah, I don't
Yeah,
think
I think
it.
this is a common mistake, even at like higher level, where a lot of players will be very materialistic. Like you'll go out of your way to win material, but you make positional sacrifices. And here it's
Okay,
not worth giving up such a amazing piece.
okay. So yeah, my last question for this position, like I'll
Sure.
just put in a random move for black. Would you still wait on taking, wait on pushing, or how would you play these type of positionals?
Yeah.
Position.
Again, you're not in any rush. What I would be inclined to do here, and there's probably multiple paths forward. It's one of these positions where you have a lot of options. It's not like a puzzle where you have one best option.
Yeah.
You want to focus on continually improving. Like there's still tension in the center, and your
Okay.
rooks are currently not doing anything. So like getting a rook to the d file I feel like would be useful in the event. I imagine a case where, let's say you have a rook on d1, then when you end up taking, there's more potential to target the queen and
Okay.
bishop. Um,
Okay, these are great. These are really helpful because when I get in these positions, I just try to trade everything right
mm.
away because I don't think it really makes a difference. But this is very
I feel
helpful.
like this is a kind of typical middle game position where there's no immediate
Yeah.
tactics. You're left to your own kind of devices of what you want to do, how you want to plan. Um,
Yeah.
and when there's no open files, usually you want to put your rooks on files that will likely open, or you want to align your rooks with either the opponent's queen or king, because
Yes.
then there's X-ray vision potential, like more tactical potential later. So I think rook d1 would be just a nice improving move.
Okay. Great. Perfect. Um. Yeah, I think that's all I have questions for this
So
line.
yeah, I mean this line I think you'll learn the most from actually getting in games and just seeing where things branch out because there's so many branches, and I think we looked at kind of the key variations, the ones that are
Yeah.
most likely to occur. But there's so many. I mean, there's options for black too, so you kind of have to learn from actual gameplay.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm really glad you brought this up because I totally forgot to start trying 95
Hmm.
without bishop g3, so now I can try both lines in my games.
Awesome.
This is great.
So I'm happy to. I mean, I have like random things prepared. If you have
Okay.
games that you want to go over,
Yeah, I had one last. Yeah, I have two lines that I have questions with, so I
yeah,
can
go
bring
for it.
those if you have any extra time.
Sure.
So my first question is like bishop a6 lines, which I think we
Ah,
could probably transpose even with a b6. I don't know the best move order for those, but I don't know. I don't really know what to do against the bishop a6 if you're just supposed to trade.
I was gonna show you. I didn't get a chance to show you earlier, but we had a position on the board. I think it was this one, where then we transitioned to just not looking at bishop g3, rather first play
Yeah,
knight
yeah.
e5. There is a tactical trap that you can employ when your opponent plays b6 and you think they're threatening. Like, this is pretty common for black to try and trade off this bad bishop for your good bishop.
Yeah.
So you can prevent this tactically with pawn c3.
Yeah, I guess position is not exactly a threat yet. But let's
Yeah,
say they
some
call.
players will like stumble into this just for
Okay.
chat after takes queen a4.
There you go,
Um,
chat. Chat is winking. There's
nice.
chat, pay
Chat
attention.
knows.
So what if they castle first?
So they castle, then it is kind of difficult to stop this bishop a6 move. What I would recommend is just to allow it, and whenever they play bishop a6, let's say knight d2,
Yep.
bishop a6, then just trade.
That's what I normally do.
And even though you do trade off one of your nice London bishops, black kind of makes a concession developing the knight to a passive square, or just
Oh,
kind
I
of out of
guess.
play.
Yeah, in this position, I don't think this must be a different possession because
Hmm.
queen e2, what would black play?
Yeah,
Like
black
maybe.
could might have to go back and reroute, or
Oh,
queen
yeah, and
c8.
I think they have maybe like a knight c7, or they normally don't go back to b8. So I
Mm.
normally see this line in a slightly
There
better
might be
position.
c5 included.
Yeah, maybe with a c5. So hold on.
Um,
If
yeah,
we could, yeah, put c5 first, and then
sure.
you've already developed your light squared bishop, and then that's when it's trickier because then we also lose a tempo taking. I think that's when it annoys me the most.
Yeah, I've gone through similar experiences as
Okay.
a London player, where you played knight d2 to kind of predict that black might play bishop a6, and then you don't waste tempo moving your bishop twice.
Okay.
If you wanted to kind of continue in that sort of style of not moving your bishop, you can get away with 95 here and go for a more stonewall setup.
Oh,
It's just another kind of idea to add to your London toolbox, where
gotcha. Okay. So we're kind of
you
waiting another move
you kind of
before we.
play the waiting game. Yeah, if
Okay.
black, actually there is a trap here. Curious how quickly you'll spot this. If knight d7,
Oh
white to
yeah,
move.
I know this one for
Yeah,
sure. This is the one trap I know.
yeah. Whenever the bishop's undefended and there's X-ray vision, you can usually get away with this knight f7 move.
Okay, awesome. So 95 first. That makes a lot of sense.
Yep, and I think this is pretty straightforward to play in blitz because your setup is still pretty natural. Black might get away with bishop a6 with a trade, but you can still get your pieces to reasonably happy squares and still have it attacking potential on the king side.
Okay. Yeah, so my question was one was the bishop a6 line, and then the last thing was if they play queen b6 super early,
Mm,
like before we have c3 pushed. So let's say like they push c5 here, and then they go queen. Wait, and it wasn't the night where you play knight a3.
okay.
Pull up my game.
This is a
Oh,
game that you played on May 1st,
okay. When I
and
began
you
my
you got absolutely
trial.
destroyed. So I'm sorry to bring up painful memories.
No, it's okay. Sometimes I might just be like careless and I know the better move,
Mm.
but maybe it's something that I have no idea how to play against.
The
So I'm
thing
curious.
is, I came across this game and I didn't really know what you did wrong. And I
Oh,
actually, like, in my process of trying to dissect what your mistake was, I actually learned something really useful too, which is a
Oh,
line
that's
I had not explored before.
such
So
a great teacher.
it's nice to learn from other people's mistakes.
Oh,
That way I
yeah,
don't suffer the pain, but I still
yeah.
come away with
This
the
one
wisdom.
I tried knight a3, right?
So you played
Oh
knight
yeah, I
a3.
never know what to do when they start attacking my d4 pawn. That's another issue.
Okay. So in this game,
How you run?
first of all, I was proud that you played knight a3 because I know we covered this idea last
Yes.
time. So if they take, you play this, and like this is already considered to be fun for white. At the very least, you have a draw with a perpetual, but there's lots of ways black can go wrong.
Yeah. Thank
Um,
you for this line. I'm always so excited when I get the knight a3 because it's unusual and it
mm,
throws them off. And it's the one move I remember. So
right, yeah, and on top of that, you have knight
like,
c4.
yeah.
I know Agad Mater like had recommended some a6, but he didn't actually cover knight a3. But if black plays a6, you play this and you're happy.
Yep.
In
Yeah, I
this
had to do it
game,
like
your opponent played probably one of the better moves, d6.
yep.
And you played knight c4. This is good. Queen c7. And then you played a4. And your opponent played bishop e6. And this is where things just started falling apart for you. Because,
How's it starting to take here and win this? Uh,
yeah, it was
yeah.
awkward. And this is actually not a position I'd studied before, but it's like very natural for black to just
Yeah.
go into this. And
Yeah.
just to
Go.
show what happened in the game, just to give some
Yeah. Go
context, you
ahead.
played
Show us.
b3, but b3 weakened your diagonal, and then
Oh, yep.
at some point
It
your
all
queen side
fell
just
apart.
collapsed. Like his pawn was
Yeah.
super weak.
Yep. Exactly. I remember this.
So
I
the
do
mistake
remember
that
now.
you made was actually kind of subtle. There may have been some improvements after b3, but the moment I want to focus on is actually this position where you played a4. I assume you were wanting to prevent b5 because it
Yep.
looks normal
Exactly.
for black to play b5 here and kick away your knight. b5
Yes.
is a move that you would be very happy if black plays. Because then,
Okay.
even though you lose time moving your knight again, probably you'd have to go back to d2. Then you have a target to attack.
Even if they just defend with like a6, don't they just have more space?
So I'll give
Like,
you an example line.
yeah, we can
But
look at the line.
the key is to just allow b5 and play a more useful developing move,
Okay.
knight f3. And I think that the key moves to look at here to understand the position are b5 and bishop e6. If b5, you calmly move back to d2, hitting the b pawn, and then
Yep.
after a6, you actually have a few options. a4 is the most thematic, where
Okay.
you just, and this is actually very typical in London. Whenever black has an early a6 b5, a4 is just a very thematic pawn break.
Okay.
And there's no, like, you're already attacking the pawn. It's a bit overextending for black to play b4. And you're going to be more developed, and it's just a bit more
After
pleasant to play.
d4, you just where do you want to develop your bishop? Do you use the c4 square at all? Or do you just
Actually,
develop?
yeah, I would be inclined to move to c4 just because d5 can't be played anytime soon. Um, but bishop
Okay.
d3, yeah, either one of these squares I think is
Okay.
reasonable.
They just develop only here.
And keep in mind, like black used a lot of time just moving queen side pawns, and
Yeah.
after
Yeah.
bishop d3, you have all your minor pieces developed.
Yep. Exactly. They only have moved their queen and all their pawns, and we're ready to castle.
Yep.
Um,
Another option just to point out, this is an engine's recommendation, which is actually kind of cool, is to take on c5. Not a move you'd usually want to play, but the purpose is to then strike with c4. Then the queen's a target because rook c1 is coming, and black's a bit underdeveloped.
is this a better computer line?
I believe so.
Yeah, I can
Yeah,
see. Yeah.
c4 or even e4 it's giving, but c4 looks it's easier to understand.
Yeah, the A4 seems more comfortable to play because it's more principled, but yeah, the computer line does make sense.
Yep. So, and another thing to address, the reason why you play knight f3 is if bishop e6, then you'd be in a similar situation to your game. The only difference is you have your knight here, and not your pawn on a4. So
Okay.
this knight can play a very nice role in diverting the attention away from the fact that your knight is a target. And you have a really nice move that doesn't usually exist in so many London lines, is knight
Okay.
g5.
Okay. Yeah, and this was an idea that I tried to use in my game, but
Mm.
here can't they do the same threat where we would have a bishop check
So you're
after
going to be
pawn.
striking first. Well, f7 would hang in that line. Like takes,
Oh,
you're immediately
there.
threatening the pawn.
Okay, nice.
So yeah, this was a few days ago. I was just having fun with some
This is great.
analysis.
Glad you brought
Um,
this up. I actually totally forgot how I misplayed this because yeah, it's not something so obvious that I
mhm.
remember. It was
I
very
wanted to
helpful.
show you just one funny line I came across in analysis because I thought
Okay.
it's natural for black just to move here and then look to kick away the knight. And then there's a really cool engine move, pawn e4, pawn sacrifice, after which if black takes, you take, bishop takes, and then queen e2, skewering the bishop, and then if the bishop
Oh,
moves, there's
take
there's
on
a pin,
six.
but there's also a fork. I call this a pork, and you're forking, pinning, and winning a lot of things.
Very nice.
Yeah, actually, if here, then you take and fork, and this is a discovered fork. So
So many forks.
yeah. Anyway, it's just a funny line. Like
Yeah,
goes to
E4.
show, yeah,
Okay.
like when you're
This
ahead in development, you'll have more fun tactics than your opponent.
okay. No, this line is awesome. I'll definitely remember this. Okay. So
Cool.
knight f3 first. Um
So did you want to bring in the game like the other
yeah,
queen b6 game?
yeah, I think it's just d4, d5, bishop f4 and c6. And then they will play queen b6.
Ah,
That was what I had to
so there's
d4.
a this sort of, I wanted to say infamous. It's kind of a famous game with
Uh-oh.
Hikaru playing. It was an over the board tournament in Vegas. Hikaru was black and he beat a grandmaster in 11 moves. And he was playing 2600 rated grandmaster.
Oh wow.
And Bereyev playing white played b3 here, which is already a slight inaccuracy. We'll get back to this. Hikaru develops. It might help if you look from black side,
Okay.
because black will be the winner in this game. So e3, and then Hikaru like keeps playing aggressively. Knight h5, bishop g5. Okay, kicks the bishop, plays knight d7, and this is a round where Bereyev like goes terribly wrong, and plays knight e5, which actually looks natural at first, hitting the knight,
Yep.
typical London move. The
Yeah.
problem is after takes, white can't take back on e5. And this is just a quick tactic for you. Black to move and win a piece.
Yeah. We got a nice little fork.
Yeah, it's using the triangles of the board. So Bereyev takes knight on g5, and then knight g4. And the
Oh
queen
wow.
is regretting its life decisions. Bishop g3 was played because g6 was a threat to trap the
Yep.
queen. G6 was still played, queen h4. Hikaru played one more move and Bereyev resigned.
Okay.
And it's such a normal move too. It's probably the move most people would play.
Bishop g7 because we also have
Yep.
this threat.
Yeah,
You
just
developed
developing, but with the threat of trapping the queen.
Nice.
And Bereyev just resigned here. He could have played on, like the move to play on is bishop e5, but it's so good for black because you take, and at the GM level, it's just losing for white.
That's funny that it's only losing a pawn though.
It
But
is, but after takes,
oh,
yeah,
you're just
there's
behind in development.
two bishops, and
Okay, yeah, I see why the GM would resign here. That makes sense.
so I think this is one of the quickest grandmaster losses ever, with
Oh wow.
with white losing with the London, because it's
Tragic.
hard
It's
to
not
lose
a
quickly
good
in
rep
London.
for us. Us
Yeah,
avid London supporters. It's not a good look.
Anyway, so I remember seeing this game, and I wasn't like a very active London player at the time. But then a few years later, I decided to investigate this line. And if we flip back to White's perspective, what I can recommend after Queen B6 is not to be materialistic. Black is trying to win the pawn, but
Hmm.
neglecting developing the minor pieces. Just give them the pawn, keep developing, play knight d2.
Oh, okay.
If black takes the pawn, you can play e4. And I can say there's full compensation for white here. You probably don't need to study this too extensively. If you remember e4, it's going to be more fun for white to play.
Okay.
This is also the computer's top choice. Like engine will give, I think, plus zero point 0.5 for white.
Good to
Um,
know.
so it's a pretty rare line, but it's one of these things that it's good to kind of have in your back pocket in case
Okay.
you run into it.
If they play like knight f6, do we push or do we just?
Um, that's a good question. If knight f6, I think you can just keep the tension, like keep developing.
Yeah, I guess play safe, just castle.
Actually, the rule is when you have like the lean development, especially like this, you'd rather open the position rather than close the position. E5 kind of closes things down.
Oh, that's a great tip. So because we're down a pawn, but we're ahead in development, we want to keep the pressure instead of closing.
If things open up, there will be more tactical opportunities because white has so much development.
Makes sense. Very
Yeah, and you
instructive.
can probably push later. If black trades on e4, then your pieces come into play. And I do see the engine here is giving a pleasant edge to white. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, I don't think this is anything to worry about.
Good. Great. No, I didn't. I've never seen. I've like definitely played 92 before, but I never considered e4. So another new idea for me to remember in my
It's
games.
not a move that you get to play too often because
Yeah.
usually like you commit to e3, but I guess that's why like you start with knight f3 in case black does go for this line.
Yeah.
And if black
Okay.
plays knight f6, then you're in time to play rook b1 if you want. There's other ways to gambit if you want to play c4, but it's a matter of preference.
Yeah. If they don't take the pawn, um, here, would you would play c4 here or
It would depend on the situation. I think if this
so?
were like a slower game, I'd be more inclined to play knight b3 or rook b1
Okay, knight
just to
b.
play more positioning. If this were blitz chess, I'd probably play c4 pretty quickly.
Okay,
And then
interesting.
what could end up happening is if bishop f5, you play queen b3,
Oh yeah, and this
you
is
could
the knight.
transpose into the setup I think we looked at briefly last
Yeah,
time,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm familiar with this. Yeah, what you play against the
the
copycat. Okay.
copycat variation.
On
Exactly.
let's try c4.
Yep.
And if they take oh, well, if they take on b2 after c4, is that a threat at all?
So this one is a bit more murky. That's why, like I said in Blitz, I would be more inclined to play C4 because this
Okay.
one, like you can't get an E4. I remember Stockfish saying this is okay for white. Yeah, some like Rook B1. You sack another pawn, but you have the files, and then you play E3. And even though you're down 2 pawns, Stockfish is saying it's close to equal. So
Yeah, I mean, I can understand why you'd play this in blitz because
mhm.
your moves to develop, you can play 'em really quick, and I mean, they're queen so far, they're likely to fall in some tactics.
Yeah, yeah. So again, it's a matter if you want to be like crazy and gambit
Okay.
stuff, or if you want to be more controlled. But it is nice having the
Definitely would
option.
try both in my blitz games.
Nice. Yeah, I think for you, you just want to like keep getting experience and keep kind of reviewing your lines, like making
Yeah,
sure that you're continually expanding your repertoire. Um,
exactly.
I
I
think we
definitely
covered like a
try.
lot of good stuff that is kind of the next layer compared to just remembering the basic setups.
Yeah, no, great because I definitely think one thing that will help me break like my rating plateaus is playing positions that I'm not used to, and these are definitely old stuff I've never played before. So this is great.
Yeah,
I
and
have
I think like especially if you want to improve, when you switch up things even a little bit, you might even drop rating because you're playing things you haven't played before, but
yeah,
long term it will teach you more about the game. It will improve your understanding of chess, and that's how you can
exactly.
overcome plateaus.
Exactly. I did have one more question. This one's kind of random. I
Sure.
was just curious if against the England Gambit, you
Mm.
go for a bishop f4 line or you play something else. I always play bishop f4 because I like it if they walk into something
Uh-huh.
like this. But I was curious what if you played something different.
Yeah, I usually just play the main line. Like if they
So
go for the trappy, first of all, there's a few traps they can go for. I assume you're referring to this one.
yeah, which this one I actually like as white because
You play
there's a
bishop
long.
d2, takes here, and then as long as you don't fall into like bishop c3 and this really
Yeah,
sad
yeah,
variation you get mated.
I've learned my lesson. I don't
Um,
play this anymore.
so knight c3 is a key move. I
Yeah.
know Amon Hamilton likes to
You
play the
know, he
queen
has this
sack.
yeah, where he like sacks his queen. Yeah,
And
I hate this one.
you should look forward to this as white because white's objectively better, but it's still like tricky to win.
Yeah. I guess most of the time I'm winning and then I kind of just blunder later.
Hmm.
So but you definitely have a big advantage from the beginning.
If you want something a bit offbeat and tricky, I'll admit I haven't studied it too thoroughly, but there is a very interesting video on YouTube. It was by Jonathan Schrantz on his YouTube channel,
All
where
right.
he shows a really offbeat line. And try and find the link, but he
How do you
shows
spell
knight
his last name?
c3.
Trance?
Schrantz, yes, Schrantz.
Ah, okay, got him. Got him. Got him.
Could probably
Okay.
Google his name in England and find
Found him.
find the video. Oh yeah, it's called a completely pointless refutation to the England Gambit.
Okay. Got it. I'll
Um,
look.
but the quick summary, he shows a line where you allow black to take the bishop on f4,
Oh, yeah.
which looks like you just blunder the bishop, but
Yeah.
computer still gives plus 1.36 because you have
Mm,
knight d5, or maybe around +1.
okay.
And this line is funny, and not too many England Gambit players will be prepared for
Oh,
this.
is this what you play sometimes or I guess you
This is what I've wanted to learn because, like, seeing the video, I just didn't. I haven't studied it so thoroughly, and you kind of have to know a little bit further after Queen E4, and things get a little bit chaotic. But it is objectively still fine for white.
Okay. Gotcha.
And then, just so I want to make sure you know the other trap in the England. If black plays bishop c5, how would you play
Mhm.
as white?
Mm.
Just
Oh,
play as you would normally
I
play.
play knight f3.
And then
I know there's
this?
like some mean sacks. And then I normally play like bishop f4, but I don't
Okay,
think
here.
that's um mm, I actually had a game like this morning.
Oh,
I think I took the pawn here, but I
uh-huh.
don't think that was right.
What is
Yeah,
this?
actually, this was an
Oops.
hour. Oh! I have fallen for this. I've fallen for this many times where you take and then they take here. I've fallen for this on stream, but
Oh,
well, of course,
really? Yeah,
yeah.
this has been
Botez
making its
gambit, you know.
rounds.
Yeah, this one I've fallen for many times on stream, but when you prepare me, say, "Oh, this is a trick," I won't fall for the queen drop.
It's incredible. Like this has been like making its rounds and like on
Yeah,
all the
it's so
platforms.
annoying. I get
Uh,
so mad when I fall for this, and I've fallen for it on stream so many times.
yeah, and then, like there's different variations. If takes here, then knight e7, and then a lot of people will stumble into
Never
it.
take the poison knight.
Yeah.
Like accidentally pre-moved or something, and then like, "No, joke's on you. Your
Well,
queen's gone."
it's as black. Yeah, black after d6, you want to pre-move knight e7.
Ah,
So after takes, knight e7 is played instantly, and white
I can
doesn't
see.
think twice.
Yeah, I can see why England people play a lot in bullet.
Yeah. I've one of my most viewed videos on YouTube is like trapping a bunch of people in this exact
Oh,
line.
as
So,
black, you play the England gambit?
I went through a phase of playing it. I've been playing it a bit less recently, but it's still fun to play every once in a while.
Gotcha,
And
gotcha.
even there's been GMs walking into this trap, so it's a funny one.
Yeah, I don't like the England gambit. I don't think it's necessarily good, but I just get so annoyed when people play it against me.
It's tricky. You just have to kind of know how to not fall into the trap and win a pawn
Yeah, as
and
long as you avoid the
get a
traps.
better position. Yeah.
So so you do. So bishop f4 is okay.
Even taking the pawn, I can recommend taking the pawn. Oh, if you want to be really dirty, actually, because a lot of people pre-move knight e7,
Yes.
you can take on d6. I don't recommend this,
Yeah.
but if they pre-move knight e7, they look ridiculous because then you take here, and you just want a bishop.
But you would have to risk giving your queen for.
Yes. So if they don't pre-move, then you're the one looking ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't know if I would take this risk, but maybe in like 30-second chess.
I'll tell you the line I can seriously recommend. Take the pawn. Don't take the knight, but play knight c3. Then you defend your queen. Some people won't realize the queen's defended. They'll play this. Then you take the knight, and they don't have the tactic. They might even lose their bishop too.
Okay, nice. And even if they take back the pawn, this is just
If they take back, you have knight b5 or knight. Actually, yeah,
Okay,
you
so
probably want to play this or this eventually. I mean, also e4. There are a lot of ways to just get a fun, pleasant position.
okay,
Actually, I
I'll
kind of
remember
like this
this.
move.
I remember
C7's
not
weak.
go bishop f4 and to
Hmm.
try to trade first and develop the knight before.
Nice.
Okay, got it. Mental note.
Yeah, it's good approach. Like, especially if you want to get better at chess and optimize your winning chances. Just learn how to refute like the dubious gambits.
The annoying, yeah. You lose so many games to these. But yeah, I started
Mhm.
coming up. I mean, my bishop f4 line works better, but I knew it wasn't correct. So good to know. Okay,
Good.
those are all my questions.
Awesome. Yeah, I think we covered a lot. I don't want to overwhelm you with like too much stuff, and
Oh,
I'll
I'm good. You're definitely not overwhelmed. But yeah, we can just make it an hour if that works with you too. But if you had any other positions you want to bring up, I'm happy to continue looking. But you are the one doing the
I'll
heavy lift.
give you just two more like offbeat London lines that I wanted to
Okay.
show you the last time. I don't think we got to, and they're just kind of mini appetizer or maybe dessert in this case. Um,
Okay.
and it's a
I love.
reason. One reason for the move order, like starting with bishop f4. Let's imagine black goes for the very quick bishop d6. There's a nice little sideline that you can play
Is
here.
this where you play that with queen g4 stuff?
Yeah, you can play queen g4 right away, or you can take.
I saw it in your database and I was very suspicious.
Ah, I'm trying to remember. Maybe I did show you this at some
No,
point
you didn't
last
show me.
time,
I
or
just looked in all the. You never showed
gotcha,
me this, but I just looked at all your databases and
gotcha.
looked at
I
this.
really like playing this in Blitz because no one's prepared for it.
Okay, so yeah, I was gonna ask you about. Is this like a bullet line? Like would
This
or
is,
this?
I think, objectively the best line for white. I discovered this by just using the engine.
Okay,
It's an
gotcha.
idea you see more often in the French, where you attack the undefended pawn, and
Okay,
whatever black does to defend it, there's some concession. Like king f8 loses castling rights, g6 weakens the dark squares, queen f8 undevelops the queen. There's a
yeah.
trap if queen b4 check, you defend, and if they take the pawn, they're losing, because then too many things are attacked in black's camp.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
so
Yeah, a lot of. I'll
So
remember this
it's a
one.
nice line, and if like more people or most people play g6, you develop normally. Queen goes here, you castle, and it's a different setup, but still very very playable.
Okay, great.
And then
I'm
one
glad.
more, kind of similar to this sort of style.
I think I
If
also looked at that one somewhere in your database, but I don't remember this one.
I may have included the other one too. I saw you had a recent game against a Queen's Indian setup.
Yes, which I need to start remembering. Oh, Queen's Indian. Never mind. We're
Hmm.
not playing Queen's Indian.
Yeah, so Queen's Indian refers to exactly this setup from black.
Yep.
Then here you can play. It's a move that's I think it's Leela's top choice is Queen f3.
Oh yeah.
It's very strange to do this in the London like rather than knight f3, but you force
Okay.
black to do something awkward to defend the rook.
Knight c6.
Either knight c6 or d5, and regardless of what move is played, you can, let's say d5. You play knight c3, you castle, you have g4, you have the pawn storm ideas, you have queen
Oh,
g3.
okay.
So it's a different setup, but it throws a lot of people off, and it's nice to sometimes nice to experiment with this in
Okay.
Blitz.
So pretty much, yeah, these two lines is because we have a tempo with the queen, and then we
Yep.
kingside castle attack on the king side because you have that extra turn where you got to take your queen out
So
early.
yeah, basically developing your queen with tempo. Normally, I wouldn't show this to like a beginner player because you don't want to move your
Yeah.
queen out too early, but these are exceptions to the rule where you move out with tempo and you accelerate your development.
Okay, these are great. These are great.
And the bonus, if you play a lot of bullets, a lot of players pre-move bishop e7.
Bishop. Yeah, this was in your notes. I do remember this one.
Yeah, and then after takes, and then here, there's a bonus trap like takes here and then here, and cutting edge theory. So
Awesome. These are great.
anyway, hopefully this gives you even more
Yeah, I
inspiration
hope
to
I get
keep playing
games with.
London.
I get so excited if someone plays into either of these two.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I'd say like make an effort to get in like training games, and play your lines, keep reviewing them. And if you have games that you're not sure what you did wrong or you want recommendations against certain things, just make a note, and I'm happy to answer any
Thank
questions in the future.
Yeah, this is awesome. I mean, I brought all the positions that I had issues in, and you literally solved them all, cured all my issues. So that's awesome.
Oh
I
yeah,
appreciate
it's a pleasure.
it, Eric. You're, I love these London lessons. They're the best chess lessons ever.
I enjoy them too. Yeah, hopefully it brought some value for chat, and
I
maybe
hope so too.
some
All
people
right.
complaining that they hate the London, they don't know how to play against it. So maybe someday we'll have to do an
No,
anti-London lesson.